I spent 10 years letting people think I was harmless, soft, decorative. The kind of woman you nod at politely and then ignore the second the real conversation starts. And honestly, that was my mistake and my strategy at the same time. Because when people underestimate you long enough, they stop watching. And when they stop watching you, get room to move. The morning everything changed didn't feel dramatic. No thunder, no slow-motion walk, just a cheap digital alarm going off at 6:10 a.m., the same one I'd used for years. My husband Evan was already up pacing the bedroom practicing his pitch under his breath like he was auditioning for a role he'd already decided was his. New ownership was coming in that day. Big meeting. Career-defining moment. He barely looked at me when I said good morning. I was sitting at the kitchen counter in sweatpants, scrolling through spreadsheets, pretending to care about a charity budget. Evan laughed and said, "You're stressing over numbers again. Relax. Today's my day." He kissed my forehead like you do with a child. Not a partner grabbed his briefcase and rushed out. He didn't hear me say, "We should talk." Or maybe he heard it and chose not to. Either way, that was the last chance. I didn't rush. I made coffee. I changed clothes slowly. I looked at myself in the mirror and barely recognized the woman staring back. Calm, flat, quiet. People think silence means weakness. Sometimes it's just patience. By the time I arrived at the office tower downtown, the energy upstairs was already frantic. Executives whispering, assistants power walking. Evan loved chaos like that. It made him feel important. He was born to shine in rooms where everyone else was nervous. I wasn't supposed to be there. At least that's what everyone thought. I stepped into the elevator alone, rode it all the way up and listened to my own breathing. Slow, steady, not fear, focus. The boardroom doors were closed when I reached the floor. I could hear voices inside. Evan's laugh carried through the wood, confident, sharp, too loud. I waited, on purpose. Then I pushed the door open. The room went quiet in a way that felt physical, like someone had sucked the air out. Every head turned. Evan stood up automatically halfway through a smile, then froze. His face did something strange, like it couldn't decide what emotion to land on. I walked in and didn't look at him. I looked at the table, the people around it. The men who dismissed me at fundraisers. The woman who once asked if I actually understood finance or just signed things. I'd memorized their tells. Who fidgeted. Who avoided eye contact. Who smiled when nervous. Someone cleared their throat and said my name wrong. I corrected him, politely. Then I sat at the head of the table. "I'll keep this simple," I said, opening my laptop. "I'm the majority owner. Effective immediately. I'm stepping in as interim CEO." You could hear a pin drop. Evan finally found his voice. "This is some kind of joke," he said, laughing too hard. "She's my wife." I nodded, yes, and this meeting is about work, not marriage. Let's not confuse the two. That's when the room shifted. People sat back. Phones went face down. No one interrupted again. I started with the easy stuff. Inflated projections, sloppy reporting, conflicts of interest. I watched the CFO's hands shake as his own emails appeared on the screen. I watched Evan sink lower in his chair with every slide. He kept whispering my name like he could pull me back into the kitchen with it. Then I got to his department, sales performance. I said, clicking forward. Impressive at first glance. Too impressive. I let that hang. There's an account here that accounts for nearly 20% of new revenue. It doesn't exist. Evan stood up. "That's not true. You don't know what you're talking about." I looked at him for the first time that day. Really looked. He was sweating. "Sit down," I said quietly. And he did. That's the thing people don't tell you. Authority isn't volume, it's certainty. I showed them the transfers, the shell accounts, the apartment lease in someone else's name, the expenses charged as client development, a younger woman's salary buried under a made-up title. Evan's mouth opened and closed, no sound coming out. I didn't yell, I didn't cry, I didn't smile either, I just told the truth, all of it. Security escorted 3 executives out before the meeting was over. Evan stayed. Pale, silent, Waiting for mercy he didn't understand he'd already spent. Afterward, people asked why I didn't fire him on the spot. I could have. Legally, publicly, satisfyingly. But that wasn't the point. Firing him would have made him a victim in his own story. I needed him to understand the cost. I reassigned him. Stripped title. No office, no perks. His new job was cleaning up the mess he'd made, documenting every lie, every shortcut, every dollar he'd taken. He worked 2 floors down in a windowless space that smelled like old coffee and paper. The man who once strutted through glass halls now needed a badge to get into records. At home, the locks were changed. Not out of spite, out of necessity. My life needed quiet to rebuild. The kids stayed with my sister for a while. Stability matters more than proximity when things are burning. Weeks passed. The company stabilized. The stock climbed. People started calling me decisive, strategic, ruthless. Funny how the words change once results show up. Evan tried to talk to me once in an elevator when no one else was around. He said I was enjoying it, that I was punishing him, that this was personal. I told him the truth. This isn't revenge, it's correction. You didn't fail because I outplayed you. You failed because you thought I wasn't playing at all. The look on his face then wasn't anger. It was grief. For the version of reality where he was always the smartest person in the room. When the investigation wrapped, I let him go. Cleanly. Professionally. The authorities handled the rest. I didn't attend the hearing. I was busy restructuring a supply chain and finalizing a merger that tripled our valuation. People ask me now how I stayed so calm, how I didn't break. The answer is simple. I broke years earlier quietly in pieces while everyone else was too busy overlooking me. By the time the explosion came, I was already standing somewhere safer. Here's what I want to know from you. Was what I did fair, or was it cruel? Is letting someone fall by their own actions justice, or just another kind of power? And how many times have you watched someone get dismissed, talked over, or underestimated only to realize later they were the most dangerous person in the room? Tell me what you think. I read the comments. And trust me, the quiet ones always do.